Hey everybody, welcome to RumblenBreaks. It's Race Sundays, and this week we're in Australia. This is what our fantasy team looks like this week. It was pretty interesting. It was an interesting race indeed.
Yeah, first of all, whoever got up like we did for the 1 a.m. race with the logic of, hey, listen,
it's not raining.
It's not raining, so it'll be a quick hour and a half. Wow, we were wrong. We were very, very wrong. So 2.5 hours later, the race finally ended. So let's talk about that. Well, actually, let's talk first F2. F2 was interesting this week.
Yeah, I mean F2 was interesting. So you had the race winner, the feature race winner was Iwasa.
Yeah.
This is the second time he's won in the F2
this season.
This season, out of 3 races. This was the first time ever that F2 is actually in Australia, and I think overseas, if I'm not mistaken. But
I'm not sure about the overseas part, but definitely the first time in Australia, and I think it didn't fail to deliver. There was a lot of excitement, a lot of incidences, and maybe that was a little bit of foreshadowing for the main event there. So why don't we just highlight the F2 winners?
Well, before we talk about this, the hometown hero.
That's grew up 10 minutes from the racetrack.
10 minutes from the racetrack. I think someone was mentioning that he actually had a picture of him holding a flag and was passing it to Danny Kvyat, which I guess was the downside of Danny Kvyat's career after that. I think that's why he was saying that. Yeah, it was sort of the downside of that. Let's go with number 1 first. Who actually won the race?
In F1.
In F1, yeah. Sorry, we'll go with F1. Like, who actually won in F1?
Mr. Max Verstappen.
I'm number 1. A second.
Listen. Let's be honest. He had a clean race. He had a good race. The clean, good race is why he was number 1.
He had a rocket ship. That's for sure. Number 2?
Hamilton, the hammer time. You knew he was going to do well because he was complaining about his tires the whole race.
Oh, my tires are getting wet. and you hear the commentators are actually like, that's a psycho. Totally psycho, too. So
yeah.
And number 3 is...
Oh, my favorite.
Oh, it's not Nico Hulkenberg.
Wait, what?
It's actually Fernando Alonso.
That's true. Well, it would have been Sainz possibly, too, in there. But, yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting race. So... let's talk about qualifiers first, right? So qualifiers. I think the reason why our team is the way it is. I mean, in one of my other fantasy teams, I think you had mentioned that hey, Perez is struggling. Maybe we need to swap him out. I swapped him out for George Russell, which have pretty an equivalent value.
Yep.
And you know what? After qualifying, it looked like it was a really good decision.
Yeah.
And
for those of you who didn't see qualifying, Perez ended up in 20th.
He Perez didn't even actually register a lap.
He didn't register a lap. He was having all sorts of trouble with that Red Bull, the back end, sliding all over the place for no apparent reason. And trust me, it was the car, not him as a driver. And so he was starting from 20th.
I think that the only plus side of that is that you know that Perez can actually drive up the field.
Yeah, no,
so
he can.
If you, from a fantasy standpoint, you would get mega points.
But it was looking. Listen, the qualifying we saw. Hamilton, Alonso, Russell, Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen, all trading who was sitting on the front row. Yeah. So, I mean, it was a shootout any one of them could command. And so you sort of look at that and say, Perez not going to be able to get up into that top, like, let's say 5-6 people. So strategically, swap him out. Again, does the horseshoe hold for the Red Bulls? There's been some gremlins in their engine, obviously in the back of the car too with Perez. So you think, let's take him out of the fantasy pool and put maybe a Ferrari or Mercedes in. But
So let's talk about the race now. Yeah. So we'll start cracking some packs and we'll talk about it. And you know what? We might actually get more packs in because it was a really interesting race. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about
the start.
Let's talk about the start. First lap magic. Thinking that, everyone, like, off the bat, Verstappen was having a really bad start.
He had bad every start Verstappen did except the last one.
Yeah.
And we'll explain that in a minute.
We'll explain what we meant by that in a minute.
He had bad starts, and somebody got ahead of him. So off the bat, Russell out in front takes a good lead. Hamilton swings into second.
Yep, Hamilton swings.
Speaking of someone who's probably not happy about that Horner.
Yeah, but Hamilton swings into second, and I think what's like the third turn or something like that.
By the third turn, Russell was away. Hamilton second, Verstappen third.
Yeah, and what happens? Leclerc beaches himself. One of the things that we talked about is that we like. I don't know. I think cars should not have an opportunity to be beached. I think it's a terrible way to lose a race.
Yeah.
And it's just not fair. Like cars should not have to have the ability to do that.
Replace Latifi with Sargent, and Williams actually looked pretty good this week for a while, anyways.
Yeah, I mean Albon looked fantastic. And then he decided he was running in sixth.
Yeah.
He was in sixth, and then he decided that Leclerc's recommendation for the beach was kind of nice, so he decided to go and take a little flyby. And what happens? He just lost control. He lost control. It was like it almost looked like we were watching a race in the rain.
Yeah.
Like it was terrible. Bottas
did nothing until the last. And then
you heard nothing about Bottas right until up until the end of the race. Yeah. And you're like, hey, even the commentators like, hey, where did he come from? Yeah. Cognizant.
So laps 1 through 9, some excitement. Couple people taking themselves out. You lost Leclerc. You lost Albon. I think was in the first 9.
Yeah.
And then the race settled down.
Yeah. I mean, actually, when the Albon got taken out, Russell had to come in to change his tire.
Well, Russell had come in under safety car, not expecting a full
safety car.
Red flag. It was yellow flag, right. Safety car, and then it went, and that was a good strategic move by Mercedes, change Russell's tire because it was going to be a one-stop race.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, red flag, so it nullified his move. So he'd given up the race lead.
He looked like he was going to cry when he was when he was talking to the total. Yeah, he was trying to fight back his he was trying to fight back his tears, and it was interesting because there he is, Mr. Russell. He's like,
Listen, no, he was not, but it was a good strategic call.
Yeah, it was like after a while. I mean,
oh, nice, my fave,
Fernando Alonso. But yeah, I mean, he then when the race restarted, what happened next is it was incredible. I mean. His car caught on fire.
Well, okay, but it didn't catch on fire. To be clear, the first 9, exciting, red flag, restart, get in the front again. Verstappen eventually passes, gets ahead of Hamilton, who was leading on the restart and had a good start. Max did not have a good start. And then passes, and he goes away down the thing. And then it was about 40 laps of real boredom. Yeah. Nothing was happening. And then stuff started to happen again. Russell's car catches on fire. That in and of itself was safety car, so some people are pitting. Then we have right towards the end of the race, we have Kevin Magnussen. That's a nice one.
That was a nice one.
Kevin Magnussen, let's pause here for a second and finish our points.
Yeah.
Kevin Magnussen crashes. That starts the chaos of the last couple of things. So they red flag it.
With 2 laps left.
Well, 3 laps.
3 laps left, sorry. 3 laps left, yeah.
The 56th lap had just started, technically 3. They red flag it. Everyone changes tires. Everyone puts on fresh reds, soft tires, gonna go racing. Get to the line, they start. Verstappen angles his car, finally has a good start to get away. Hamilton's right behind him. Alonso was sitting in third. Sainz was fourth.
Yeah.
And Stroll was in fifth or sixth. Hulkenberg was in fifth, and Stroll was in sixth. And then what happens? Chaos. We had Sainz gets the door slammed on him, ends up hitting Alonso. Alonso spins out. Stroll goes into the runoff in the beach. Perez decides he's going to check out the beach too. They both manage to drive across at least. Alonso gets his car turned around.
Sargent hits
De Vries, takes them both out, ends up in the beach. Then you have
then this man here.
This man here.
He went on the beach. I think he recovered.
And then didn't see his teammate, Ocon, coming along beside him and manages to demolish their 2 cars, and it's a red flag again.
It's a red flag with 1 lap left.
2 laps.
2 laps left, and this is where it gets interesting.
Because the 56th lap was their warm-up, so they were on the 57th lap when it happened. So then what do? FIA causes chaos. Yeah, this guy's like, man, it was chaos, and so they erase the lap, if you will, but gives some penalties. So poor Sainz gets a penalty for hitting Alonso 5 seconds, so that takes him out of contention for the points.
And he started crying.
Well, he wasn't really.
Well,
he was pretty upset.
He was very upset. He was very, very upset.
Yeah, because he had driven so well up until that point, and I don't know that it was fully his fault, but whatever. But I don't even know how you give a penalty when the lap does or doesn't exist, and then you get into the 2 Alpines. Like, if the lap doesn't exist and they both crashed out, where do you do it? Because they reset. The FIA reset in the order before the last start, and they can't start. And except the 2 Alonso and Stroll, get to benefit. So in the end, it finished the way it did. Hulkenberg looked like if they'd kept the order it was when the red flag happened, Hulkenberg would have actually been on the
third. He would actually third. He would have actually finally had his first podium after being. He's still one of the people that haven't a podium in any of the races he's ever been in.
Yeah,
he's been total midfielder.
Yeah,
the Haas team.
Oh, anyways, and Perez benefited from all that chaos. And he managed to get up into, what was it, 4th or something in the end, or 5th? Anyways,
I thought he was 6.
I don't know. He
was in 6. Yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, this is FIA inconsistency that's right. Like, so if like we were watching Maddie, P1, and Tommy.
Yeah.
Right, and Tommy brings up a good point that hey, look, this is exactly the same thing as what happened to Hamilton and Verstappen 2 years ago at the very final race where they decided to have a shootout. But in this case here, they decided not. They finished it under a safety car.
Yeah. So Hamilton could have been world champion by that rule, but they didn't do that.
Exactly. So it's so inconsistent.
Vettel's like, I'm so glad I retired last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think Daniel Ricciardo too. It's just like he was just watching. I think you had a big grin on his face, like I'm glad I'm not running in this race.
Although, you know what, the people that benefited the most from all of that chaos in that final 2 laps
were the advertisers. I'm sure.
No, the McLarens.
Yeah, the McLaren
both got points.
Oscar Piastri got points in his home race, so that was
first points in F1.
First points in F1 at his home race. So it was great for him. I'm really happy for that. Poor Carlos. Again, that was his the face. And Vettel. And lastly, Mr. Did you notice that they were checking out the Red Bulls?
Yeah, because I told you the Red Bull has a triple DRS. The Red Bull's done something to the back, so even when DRS is not on, they've kind of got DRS, and then when DRS is on, it's like having a triple DRS.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like
that's why Max is saying he's number 1 because he's got a rocket.
He's got a rocket. He's riding that little rocket.
His rocket is going up. That's what he's doing. He's pointing up because it's his rocket.
He's going to the moon.
Yeah.
That's cool, Mr. Total Wolf.
I like that a lot.
But yeah, like, what do you guys think? Like, like, was a late restart good for this race itself? Like, I don't know. It's a tough call. It's a tough call.
I think it shouldn't have been I think it should have been a rolling. I agree with the red flag. I like that they got to put the tires on, but I feel a little bit like it shouldn't have been a restart, like a standing start. I think it should have been a rolling start. Like, I think Max should have been allowed to just, like, the safety car veers off and Max goes. Because then I think their tires are warmed up. You heard them afterwards and they were all complaining the tires were cold. Yeah, it was cold. And the sun was in their eyes. Oh, and the sun was in their eyes, The sun was in their eyes, so... Yeah, let us know what you think. It was definitely an interesting race up until the end. And let us know your thoughts. Like, did you enjoy the race? Did you watch the entire 2.5 hour debacle? Or did you sleep and be smart and just watch the race in 30 minutes? Yeah. Have a great month, actually. So we'll be seeing y'all in Azerbaijan and at the end of April. Have a great month and be safe.